Hello and welcome to Fullerton College Baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net. I'm Ryan Osborne, joined by Mark Pavlovich and Joseph Pavlenko as we get set for Fullerton College and Cypress coming up in just a couple of moments. And Mark, when you look at Fullerton College, struggles as of late, and they lost the last game to Cypress in decisive fashion. One thing for Fullerton is they really have had trouble preventing those big innings.
Yeah, they have. But the thing that I'm going to throw in here right now for all the parents that are listening or watching this game, what a great group of young men these are out here, Ryan. You were out the other day. I helped Joe. I went and visited all the ball players. And I tell you what, the enthusiasm that they have for still playing this game and the great deal of spirit they have, that carries over to the next step for them. This will be a very dynamic baseball team. And so, the one thing we will say, if there's been bumps and bruises along the way, it hasn't deterred anybody's spirit. It still has made them an enthusiastic baseball team, which is going to make the game today an exciting game to watch here on SportsNetUSA.net.
As we get to the starting lineup for the Cypress Chargers coming up here in just a moment, you look at Cypress. Their batting order is going to start with Andrew Soika at the top of the order, joined by Pu'ukani Desa, in addition to Kobe Morales. That's the top three in the order, with Dalton Sloniger hitting cleanup right behind them. Ryan Maciel with Brendan Harris and Ricky Lane, joined by Jason McDonald and David Canales. That is the 9 in the batting order for Cypress.
Ryan, look at that defensive lineup for the Hornets, too. A little different than we've seen so far this season.
And we'll show you the defense in just a couple of moments across your screen as we start things off with Schubert on the mound and Jacob Sharp directly behind home plate. And Andrew Soika is going to be the first one due up. We'll have more on him later on, Mark, because that last name Soika should be familiar to you if you've been watching SportsNetUSA.net over the last 5 years. Delivery from Schubert out towards left field. Lazy fly out to Dominic Martinez, and he'll make the catch for out number 1. So Soika retired on 1 pitch, and that's going to bring up Pu'ukani Desa. Desa, a Hawaii native.
Batting .265 this season, an on-base percentage of .357, a slugging percentage of .367 for the number 2 hitter.
Mark, this is a Cypress team that bats pretty well. Team batting average of .305, 16 home runs, which is one of the top 2 in the Orange Empire Conference as the first pitch goes down low, 1 ball and no strikes. Next delivery inside, and it's 2-0 from Schubert.
You look at Schubert, Ryan, on the mound. He really has had some very good outings for the first 5 to 6 innings in every game that he's pitched. So we'll see what they do with him today. If he does have his normal game, he should keep Cypress in check those first 6 innings.
2-0 count from Schubert. Goes fastball inside, and it's hit directly behind first, but it's going to go foul. That'll bring the count to 2 balls and 1 strike. Ryan Osborne, Mark Pavlovich, and Joseph Pavlenko joining you live from Fullerton College here on SportsNetUSA.net. Justin Schubert on the mound, Jacob Sharp behind home plate, and over at first, Marco Malerba. And at second is Brock Denbo. Delivery home. There's a called strike, 2-2. Infield on that left side, David Barrios and Sawyer Chesley. Outfield from left to right, being Dominic Martinez, Brian Landon, and Matt Darr. Two from Schubert. Hesitates just for a second and delivers outside, 3-2. Cypress at 12-5, 8-2 in conference. And again, they won on Tuesday, putting up a 10 spot in the first inning of play. 3-2. Smacked out towards right. It's got a lot of pace to it. It's high, deep towards the corner, and it will end up hitting the top of the wall and going over. It's a home run for Desa, and Cypress is on the board.
And once again, when you look at the dimensions of this park, 340 down the right field line, 373 in the power alley, 405 dead center, 366 in left field power alley, and 334 down the left field line. Ryan, when you sit there and look at that, you'd have to say it was hit about 350, 360 to get out of this park.
Not to mention, Mark, that wall out in right field, actually with the ivy-covered wall all around, sitting at about 10 feet or so. It's one of the tallest walls in the entire Orange Empire Conference, and it hits the top of it and goes over. So you mentioned that it had to be at least 350 out towards right, in addition to it having to have that height to get over top of that wall. 1 ball and 1 strike, as up to the plate is Kobe Morales. Morales this season, 375, 4 home runs, 17 RBIs, both the lead for the Cypress Chargers. 1-1 count now. Make it 2-1.
He doesn't strike out very often when he gets up there. And Ryan, when you look at his slugging percentage of 688, you look at that, does well when he's at the plate.
The only one with a better slugging percentage in the entire lineup is Mario Tostado at a 758. 17 RBIs, tied for first with Andrew Soika at the top of the order. And his 11 walks, very selective and patient at the dish. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Schubert. Brings it home. It's right back up the middle, over towards center field and through. And it's going to get away from Landon. So that allows for the runner to get up to second. And that is going to be a hit and an error in center.
And so somebody would ask why you marked down an error on that play. Ryan, you put the error down there because of the advancement on the play. It's basically a base hit. Person's going to be safe at first, but he gets to go to second on that. So therefore, the error is scored on the board.
That's part of the thing with the electronic scorebooks, Mark. You have to explain to the computer as to why the runner ended up taking an additional base. There's a called strike.
Schubert goes down and slips on that. You look at this young man that's on the mound. I was talking to one of the coaches, and he's told me that this young man is basically coming back. He's had a little repair work done to his arm and is progressing slowly but well in the positive direction.
0-1 to Dalton Sloniger. Sloniger 431, and he sends this one out towards right, and that's going to get down. Getting the stop sign over at third base is Morales, and it's first and third with 1 out. And Ryan Maciel coming up next. And Mark, you saw this on Tuesday from Cypress where they got ahead against Fullerton early, and it's kind of a repeat process here.
Yeah, 10 runs in the first inning last time they were out there. And, of course, we've seen this over the season that the Hornets every once in a while can make that comeback against teams that get on top first. But it has been a struggle for them when they've had to.
So Maciel steps in, hitting 182. A big chance for him to get his season back to where he'd like it to be. 4 RBIs for him so far. He's got 6 hits, and 4 of them are doubles. 1 ball and no strikes from Schubert. Runners at the corners, out towards right. That's going to get down as well. So to score 1, Matt Darr coming up, throwing over to third, and he'll get it on the line. But it's now 2-0 Cypress. So 2 spot on the board for Cypress College. That is the 5th RBI of the season. Actually, no, it won't technically go as an RBI as the run comes in. That was the error in center field. So an unearned run there. And now you've got runners on first and second. Schubert, first delivery of this at-bat, gets a strike against Brendan Harris.
So Soika flies out, Ryan, to start this inning off, and then 4 consecutive hits now by the Chargers.
You look at the hits, Mark, all of them have been solid contact. Harris gets another breaking ball, nearly the same location for Schubert, doesn't get the call though, and it's 1-1.
And you look as dangerous as Harris is, batting .356. Ryan, you talked about RBIs. He's got 12, but he's scored 13 times this time. So it's a young man that gets on base and gets in when he gets on base.
1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out to home. Third straight breaking pitch that goes to the outside half. This time it stays too low, and it's 2-1. 2 balls, 1 strike, 1 away. 2-0 Cypress here in the top half of the first. Next delivery. Outside corner called strike. Hornets trying to stay to the outside half against Harris.
And you'd love to get him to ground into a double play because Ricky Lane, who's on deck, is batting .370 this season for the Chargers.
To home. Schubert out towards center field. Landon has to go back. He ranges to it, gets behind it. He'll make the catch. Comes up firing, looking for third. That's not going to be there in time. And the only tag is at second, down to third by Morales. Make that Dalton Sloniger. So Sloniger over at third. Maciel stays at the first base bag, and that's going to bring up Ricky Lane. You mentioned it, Mark, hitting .370, 7 RBIs, leads the team in stolen bases, and an on-base percentage of .383. Two outs on. Here's Schubert to home. Just misses on the outside, 1-0.
Lane's not really a power hitter, though, Ryan. In his 17 hits, he's only got 2 of them are extra base hits so far. He's got a double and a triple with his 17 base hits, 15 singles.
1-0. Over to third, picked up by Chesley. Stare on to first, and Malerba will make the catch to end the top half of the first. 2 runs on 4 hits, 1 error, and a couple left on base for Cypress. We go to the bottom of the first. The first up's for Fullerton College. They trail it by 2. You're watching Fullerton College baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net. Let's get you the starting batting order for the Fullerton College Hornets coming up here in just a little bit, as Fullerton College is going to go with Dominic Martinez to start things off at the top of the order, and Jacob Sharp with Matt Darr, possibly the most dangerous hitters in the order in the top 3 there, followed by Julian Tellez and Brian Landon. David Barrios, Marco Malerba bat 6th and 7th with Sawyer Chesley and Brock Denbo to round out the starting 9. And of course, Justin Schubert getting the start on the mound. When you look at things defensively for the Cypress Chargers coming up here in just a moment on your screen, you can see it there. Julian Aguilar is going to be the one on the mound for them with Jason McDonald behind home plate. Kobe Morales over on the first base line with Puukani Desa at second. At short is David Canales, Dalton Sloniger at third. Out in left field, Ryan Maciel, with center being Andrew Soika, and in right is Ricky Lane.
And Ryan, when you look for the freshman on the mound for Cypress, you look at him with an ERA of 7.02. He's given up 24 hits, 15 runs so far. A strikeout to walk ratio, almost 2-to-1. He's got 15 strikeouts, 7 walks this season. So this is a gettable pitcher on the mound for the Cypress Chargers. And you've got to look, Ryan, I got to ask you, when you talk about highlights for the Hornets, I guess it's the leadoff hitter for this team, Dominic Martinez.
And this is a guy that you were talking about 2 weeks ago. When he comes up to the plate, it seems like he goes up there with no pressure on him, and he is able to deliver hit after hit for Fullerton College. no matter what the score is. So Martinez will step up for Fullerton. And he immediately sends this one into left field for a single. Little dribbler out there, but he is aboard.
He started off today batting .340 for the Hornets, so that means his numbers has just gone up. Only 2 stolen bases. Ryan, you've seen him play. A little surprised he doesn't run more?
Yeah, especially with how well he covers ground out in left field. We know he has the speed, the agility, and quickness to be able to take off. Just hasn't had it translate into the stat there. As Aguilar gets some late action on it, 0-1.
Jacob Sharp batting .310. Slugging percentage of .548 when you look at him this season.
Aguilar looking for low in the zone. He's got it, 0-2.
8 RBIs. He's got 3 home runs in this shortened season for the Hornets.
Saw him hit a grand slam last week. That got Fullerton back in the game. This is line foul down the left field line. So it's 0-2. 2 runs, 4 hits, and no errors for Cypress. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 error for Fullerton here in the bottom half of the first. They've got Dominic Martinez leading things off at the first base bag. Sharp, next delivery. It's a breaking ball down the third base line. It's picked up and tossed across, and it's there in time. Nice job by Sloniger to get it all the way from third to first, and he shows off his arm and is able to get out number 1. Up to second goes Dominic Martinez.
Well, you like a third base person that knows they can't get the runner at second base, doesn't even look there, and Ryan, that reason of not looking gives him the possibility to make that throw to first base.
So Aguilar is going to have to face Matt Darr. Darr started off this season in the leadoff spot. And the better that he hit, Fullerton realized that they have to lower him in the lineup to get him guys on base. Here comes Martinez on a single into right. They're going to concede the run, and it's 2-1 Cypress.
And Ryan, let's go back and talk about Dominic Martinez. You keep thinking, and I do too, he should run more often because base hit to right field, he easily scores. There is no throw to home, just demonstrating his speed.
Even better, Mark, you look at how he rounded that third base bag. As soon as that ball was off the bat, he realized he had the opportunity to get to home, and he rounded it well. Too often you see guys who just go straight for the third base bag, and then they turn around and look and figure things out. He anticipated that that ball was hit high enough, and he takes the correct line. So a 2-1 score as Tellez steps in, and he's going to get strike 1 called on him, 0-1.
And go ahead, Ryan.
You mentioned it earlier, Mark. This is the guy in Aguilar. When you go according to his ERA, very gettable. No balls, 1 strike. Here's Tellez, crouched at the plate, step back, and this ball gets away, and Darr's going to take off for second. No throw, and he is there.
Now I'm a little tougher fielder when it comes to scoring than you are because I'm not going to call that a wild pitch. It should have been a clean pickup at home plate, so I'm going to call that a pass ball.
So a pass ball from Mark Pavlovich. 1 ball, 1 strike, and 1 away. Tellez back in, looking. Gets crossed up on the inside. Awkward swing, and he doesn't catch it. 1-2. Infield up the middle, in just slightly. Delivery. Tellez takes strike 3 call. Great pitch there by Aguilar as he goes to the outside, and he gets it for strike 3. So now you got Landon coming up with a runner in scoring position, and Fullerton an opportunity to at least tie it. Brian Landon hitting 300. 4 RBIs. To home, Landon takes a high strike right at the letters, and it's 0-1. You're seeing from Aguilar so far, Mark, he is not afraid to move that ball in and out of the zone. You're seeing him get those low outside calls and then also high and in tight.
Well, so far he's thrown a fastball and a couple breaking balls, so he might have 2 solid pitches when you look at him out there.
Aguilar to home, and Landon swings through it. That's 5 straight strikes for him, if you include the at-bat from Tellez. No balls, 2 strikes, and 2 gone. Slight breeze going from home plate out towards right center field. Turning around, Aguilar trying to keep Matt Darr closer to second base. Darr reached on an RBI single. Takes off to second on a pass ball. Now looking to lead off as Landon has a no ball and 2 strike count. To home, Landon scoots away, gets it called for strike 3. Back-to-back strikeouts there, and both of them looking for Aguilar. We're going to go to the top half of the second. It's 2-1, Cypress with the lead. You're watching Fullerton College baseball. Softball you'll see tomorrow here on SportsNetUSA.net. Getting ahead of myself there because we're anticipating more Orange Empire Conference softball coming up tomorrow here on SportsNetUSA.net. So don't forget to keep tuning in here to SportsNetUSA.net. Not only do we have Fullerton College baseball, but we've got Fullerton College softball on its way tomorrow.
You know, Ryan, when we've talked about high school players coming in and helping these community colleges. You look at high school baseball that's going on right now in California. Orange Lutheran, Paul Jones, Dr. Paul Jones, who's now at Sunny Hills. Well, Paul, your team is still the #1 team in California, 20-2 as of today. Buchanan out of Clovis is 17-1. Thousand Oaks, 19-0. Jay Serra, a football power that we've heard about for many years, 16-5. Bullard out of Fresno, 13-2. Cardinal Newman out of Santa Rosa is undefeated. They're number 6. Liberty at Bakersfield, number 7. Harvard Westlake in Studio City is number 8. San Joaquin Memorial is number 9 out of Fresno. And Sierra Canyon out of Chatsworth is the 10th team here in the state of California in high school baseball. Future community college players on all those teams.
Jason McDonald steps in there and takes a called strike immediately, 0-1. A few moments ago, you saw the defensive lineups for Fullerton College. Schubert on the mound, Sharp behind home plate. Malerba at first, and at second is Denbo. Shortstop of Barrios. Third base is Chesley. Out in left field is Martinez, with center field being patrolled by Landon, and Darr in right. Schubert on a 1-1. Comes back with the off speed, and it's 1-2.
One thing Schubert's got there, Ryan, we talk about it in softball, has a bulldog mentality on the mound. Even when he gets down, you don't see him get discouraged.
Off the end of the bat, lots of spin to it, and it's picked up initially by Denbo. He'll throw on to first, and then one is gone. And Mark, you saw that thing bouncing around like a bean.
Yeah, it did, Ryan. When it first took off, it looked like it was going to be a direct one to Denbo. Then all of a sudden it took this weird little hop and slowed down at the same time. Give it to Denbo for sticking with the ball. Keep your eyes on the ball, get it in your glove, and make the throw. Fundamental baseball is how you get people out.
Here's Schubert. First pitch swinging. That's going to go to Canales, and he is immediately thrown out. That's the second time that Schubert has gotten someone to swing at the first pitch and grounded into contact.
Center fielder number 9, Andrew Soika.
So here's Soika, and earlier we talked about his name being familiar on sportsnetusa.net, Mark. His sister, Alyssa, played here on sportsnetusa.net for Santiago Canyon. In 2016, she won the CCCAA championship with the Santiago Canyon Hawks. 1 ball and no strikes, make it 1-1. Then she ended up transferring out to Hawaii, where she joined one of her former teammates at Santiago and finished off her career in the NCAA's Big West Conference.
Ryan, you look at Barrios playing shortstop for the Hornets. Really does have a shortstop arm, doesn't he?
He does, and we noticed that last week as well. When he has the opportunity to display it, his arm gives him a lot more ability to range out there. You see, there's a difference for shortstops. Sometimes you'll see guys have athletic prowess that gets them to be able to field more balls. In his case, he can get to a spot and his arm gives him the range because he can go deeper at short. He can go deeper towards the outfield and not have to worry about it later. Swing and a miss. It's a strikeout as Soika is the third out of the inning. We go to the bottom half of the second. It's still 2-1 Cypress. You are watching Fullerton College Baseball here on sportsnetusa.net.
Ryan Osborne brought up the fact that tomorrow, we're going to say it here now, the best softball team maybe in California. We know the best softball team in Southern California will be on the air tomorrow. Ryan Osborne and I are going to sort of lean towards those Fullerton College Hornets. Of course, Brad Pickler is bringing in his Cypress Chargers tomorrow. And Ryan, if you could say there is one team that owns that little dark shadow over the Fullerton College Hornets, I guess you could say it's the Cypress Chargers led by Brad Pickler.
And it historically has been like that, and especially if you want to look at the postseason recently, it seems like whenever Fullerton has one of those unexpected seasons where all of a sudden they look like, hey, you know, this is a contender. This is not just, oh, we're going to get into the playoff, but a contender. It seems like each and every year they have to go through Cypress, and it ends up hurting them in the end.
Yeah, it does. And, of course, no postseason play this year. There may be a tournament at the end of conference play, but nobody goes on. Unfortunately, Ryan, this year, I think Speedy and Crystal have a team that's solid enough that could have made it to the state championship.
So Aguilar is going to face Barrios to start, joined by Malerba, as Barrios will immediately ground it over to second, and it's picked up and tossed to first by Desa. And that's going to be out number 1. So it's Malerba and Chesley now.
28, Marco Malerba.
Malerba, the lefty for Fullerton College, steps in against Aguilar. Aguilar got 2 straight strikeouts to end the bottom half of the first. And just a few moments ago, a 1-pitch out into contact. Malerba hitting 160. It gets a called strike, inner half. And Mark, you just hear that glove pop a little extra every time that Aguilar pitches.
Yeah, and you're seeing the umpire has already established his strike zone. He is giving the right side of home plate because of where he lines up.
Malerba turning on this one, sends it foul.
So your home plate umpire is not peering over the top of the catcher. He's not even really peering over his right shoulder. He's peering over the right side of the catcher.
Up and high.
A high desert meal is running in front of us.
Malerba fouls this back.
So how do you say, Ryan, how do you say lizard in Spanish?
It depends on the type of lizard. There are different words for snakes, different words for those smaller lizards, the bigger lizards, and those type of Komodo dragons that you would have.
Okay, so like the small guy that ran by us?
You know what? I'm blanking on the name. Cucumber lizard.
Cucumber lizard.
This is grounded to the third base side and tossed to first in time. I love how Mark
Number 33, Sawyer Chesley.
took poquito, which means little or small, and turned it into cucumber, which is pepino.
What, didn't that come from our linguistic major, Joseph Pavlenko? That
I believe so.
Yeah, yeah.
And what the word you're looking for is lagartija.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
I don't think I'm going to get over cucumber lizard.
I tell you. Oh.
This bounces in, goes all the way to the backstop. 1 ball and no strikes.
You know, Ryan, when we were talking about the lizard, I watched a little dust storm out in center field. It's interesting because you can actually watch the swirling wind in center field.
Up into the air and fouled off to the right. And part of it, Mark, you saw that dust storm. It went over towards the right field corner.
Mm-hmm.
Or excuse me, I should say that right center field triangle that's out there. Because it starts to pick up and bounce off the ivy in center. As Chesley couldn't hold up, and it's 1-2. Chesley up and in. 2-2. Chesley digs back in on a 2-2. Breaking ball, pops it into the air. Right center. Getting underneath it is Soika. He'll make the call, and with 2 hands, he'll also make the catch. We go to the top of the third. Fullerton College trailing it by 1. It's 2-1 Cypress. You are watching Fullerton College baseball right here on SportsNetUSA.net. We've got everything here on SportsNetUSA.net, from baseball to softball to cucumber lizards.
That's true, and if that doesn't stir your appetite, hey, if you're in the neighborhood today at 4 o'clock, over where the new football facility is going to be, there will be a scrimmage for spring football today here on campus at Fullerton College. So after watching the game here today on SportsNetUSA.net, take a ride on over. Take a peek at the future of Fullerton College football and the future where the facility for Fullerton College football is going to be at in the next coming 2 years. And hopefully SportsNetUSA.net will be accompanying you for the future years for Fullerton College sports here on SportsNetUSA.net.
So Desa, who homered in his last at-bat, is going to lead things off for Cypress. 2-1, Cypress with the lead. As Desa swings early, gets a piece, fouls it down the third base line. 2 runs, 4 hits, and no errors for Cypress going into the third, and 1 run, 2 hits, and 1 error for Fullerton. This is out towards right. Lot on it again. Dar at the track. Looks like he's got a beat on it, and he will track it down right in front of the ivy. So Desa, for the second straight at-bat, gets solid contact. This time it's a long fly ball. And it will be out number 1 here in the third. That's the thing, Mark. You look at that ball that he hits out towards right center. This time it's closer to the 373 marker. You shift that over about 30 feet to the right where he hit the last one. That has the same distance.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, that's, again, give it to the pitcher on the mound, though. There used to be a gentleman that pitched for the Milwaukee Braves, Lou Verdette, that would give up 8, 9 hits a game and still win all the time.
Bounces in, and that's going to make it 1 ball and no strikes. And Mark, is that just pitching to contact?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I think we got into that era where everybody looks for a strikeout pitcher.
Right back up the middle. It's going to be charged by Denbo on a short hop. He'll toss to first and get the out.
And you love what Denbo does on that, Ryan. He gets his body in front of the ball first. He picks it up with the glove alone, not with a throwing hand on it. But if for some reason that ball were to take a wicked hop, he would have ended up knocking it down with his body and still had a chance at first base.
What you'll see also, Mark, is a lot of times an infielder will separate their glove hand from their body as well. So not only will they charge on it wrong, not bring their body behind it, but they'll also put their arm at a more diagonal angle. So not only do they not get their body behind it in case it skips past, they're not getting an accurate read to begin with because they're not seeing it with 2 eyes when they're coming in on the ball. Out towards center field, it's going to trail towards left center where Landon is going to get under it and make the catch. 1, 2, 3 goes Cypress. Here in the top of the third, we go to the bottom half. It's 2-1 Cypress College over Fullerton. You are watching Fullerton College baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net. Aguilar gets set to go and get his warm-up tosses in. Again, I am Ryan Osborne, joined by Mark Pavlovich and Joseph Pavlenko here on a Thursday afternoon. Fullerton in their alternate navy blues with gold lettering and numerals trimmed and outlined in white. On the other side for Cypress, they are in the all grays today with navy blue trimming, outlining, and numerals outlined in white as well. As you see the team comparison here, well, Mark, to put it simply, Cypress, a very offensive-minded team, and they have been good on the offensive side of the game of baseball this year. Air-wise, they've limited it, and their fielding percentage looks like one of the best in the entire Orange Empire Conference.
Yeah, and really when you think about it, I mean, my thing, and everybody will tell you, I look at defense all the time, be it baseball or softball. I feel in baseball you should have a fielding percentage of around 960 at the worst. They're at 957. Unfortunately for the Hornets this year, they're at 930 with 42 errors. And Ryan, you take away some of those errors, the Hornets would probably be sitting at 500 right about now.
Earlier we were talking about Fullerton trying to get themselves out of innings where crooked numbers get put on. You trail it back and you look at those innings that they've given up those runs and taken themselves out of games. A lot of it has to do with those errors. We've seen errors cause other teams, especially a team like IVC, where Fullerton had a 6-run lead at one point. All it takes is 1 or 2 errors in a single inning, and now you've got a 10 spot, an 8 spot on the board. Back-to-back balls from Aguilar, and it's 2-0.
Well, you've heard the old adage, hey, instead of giving me 3 outs, give me 5 outs. I'll probably beat you. And that's what errors allow you to do, give somebody 5 outs in an inning.
Now back, Martinez in the on-deck circle, trying to recover it, but instead goes as a 2-1 strike count. Brock Denbo at the dish for Fullerton. Gets a piece again.
And when you think about Brock making that last defensive play as a second base person, and Ryan Osborne just brought it up, get that body in front of the ball. Even if you misplay it, you've got the proper angle, you can knock it down and still make a play. He did a very nice job at second base.
Aguilar, athletic play on the mound, and he's able to jump up, walk it over to first, and there's out number 1. You see the swing there by Brock Denbo, Mark. Didn't look like he was fully committed to it, or at least got crossed up on which pitch he was seeing. But credit to him to still being able to fight that off and get it into the field of play. So with one out, now you've got Dominic Martinez up next. Martinez will take a high strike and it's 0-1.
And this is where you'd like to see a little Ryan Osborne in Dominic Martinez. Ryan says, look at your first base person so far behind the bag. If you could drag a bunt down that first base line right now, you're safely on with no play at first base.
First pitch was a strike. Second one goes low. Morales playing well deep over at first, just about a step or two inside the outfield grass. 2 balls and 1 strike. Over at third, Sloniger is 3 or 4 steps back and 2 towards second. The 2-1. Make it 3-1.
Yeah, the lost art of bunting. I saw it in an Angel game the other night where they actually bunted on a safety squeeze and it caught the defense completely off guard.
Martinez is going to be on again. Mark, we're continually seeing Dominic Martinez go up there and just get quality at bats every time he steps in. That's going to bring up Jacob Sharp.
And this is where now with the Hornets, you can look for things that work for you. Maybe you play a little run and hit in this situation. Let Martinez go, and hopefully you can have somebody like Sharp hit behind him in the hole.
No balls, 1 strike, and 2 outs. Make it 1 out.
Cat-like reactions here in the booth. No balls and 1 strike as this is going to go over towards the right. They go with the pickoff, and Martinez is back in time. So you get Sharp hit by a pitch on that one, and now you have runners at first and second with 1 out.
Right fielder, number 11, Matt Dahl.
And this is where you look for Matt to keep the ball in play, not overswing, put the pressure on the defense to make a play. And 2 people on base right now that can run when you look at them. Singles should tie this game up with Martinez at second base.
And Mark, you and I are always a proponent of old style type baseball. Bunting, directional hitting. If you're Matt Dahl, you've got a huge hole on the right center field side. Anything to that side is essentially going to score you at minimum 1. And it'll get Sharp down to third as well.
And when you think that Aguilar likes our view of the plate, which is the right side, if he goes that outside corner, you go with the pitch and drive it to right field.
Desa going back to the second base bat. Aguilar trying to keep Dominic Martinez close. 1 out, bottom 3, runner in scoring position, and 1 over at first. Here's Matt Dahl. To home, Dahl. High chopper over too short. Picked up on to first, and they got the double play. So Dahl bounces into an inning-ending 6-4-3. And we go to the top half of the 4th. Fullerton still trailing it by 1. You're watching Fullerton College Baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net. Mark, an excellent opportunity to score with under 2 outs. But, you know, you and I were just talking about laying something down, maybe moving the defense over, directional hitting, slap hitting. But instead we see a ground out over to short.
Yeah, and Ryan, that's sort of become the game of baseball as the years have progressed. That I'm going to go with the composite bats, giving a little more pop. The hitters that come up there, hitters think they can hit the ball harder. And those traditionals, moving them over, second and third with 2 outs, base hit gives you the lead. Playing run and hit. Those things that we saw growing up as baseball fans are now an elusive or a fading part of the game. And I know, Ryan, you played the game of baseball. When you played, was that still part of the game?
At my high school, at least it was. I was a Centennial guy out in Corona, so it was very traditional in a sense of let's move the runners over. If we have to bunt, we're going to do that. It wasn't necessarily as much long ball, but now the more and more that you watch tournaments like the Anaheim Lions tournament that's here on sportsnetusa.net, you see that high schoolers are just going out there trying to see how far they can hit it. That's the other thing too, Mark, is that, you know, the further back you go in baseball, the more teams would have been even accepting of taking it out there and just bunting both guys across or both guys into scoring position, because then you still have an at-bat with runners in at second and third with 2 outs.
Yeah, and realize when you get a runner at third, wild pitch scores him, pass ball scores him, an air he easily scores.
Up into the air behind third, make it very deep short. It will be Barrios who makes the catch. And Mark, do you see a different mentality in baseball nowadays where it seems like 2 outs, teams kind of treat it like if it's already 3?
Yeah, exactly.
Top 4. As Schubert gets that one just outside, tried to go with the fastball, didn't get the call there. Brendan Harris up. A few moments ago, it was Maciel who sent one as they pop up to short. 2-0.
So you look at Schubert, and we brought it up. He's got a bulldog mentality. You look at that first inning, gets a fly out, and then 4 consecutive hits in a row, and it looks like, oh, here we go again. What's he do? He gets out of that first inning, only giving up 2. The Hornets score 1, and it's a 1-run ball game. And now you look at him, a little more dominant from the mound for the Hornets.
2 balls and 1 strike. And that's something that we've seen from Schubert this entire season. If he's given the opportunity to get into a rhythm, then all of a sudden he starts cranking out scoreless innings. He starts cranking out 1, 2, 3s as well. It's just a matter of if he has the opportunity to get in that rhythm. Right back up the middle. This is going to be Denbo watching it into center field. Toss over to first, trying to see if they can get the runner, and they don't. That's going to bring up Ricky Lane.
Fielder number 5, Ricky Lane.
And we talked about Lane batting .370. Basically a single hitter. So now if you're Cypress, you look over and you say to yourself, okay, single hitter. Do you put a runner in motion right about now, Ryan, if you're the Chargers?
Absolutely. Especially with just a 1-run lead. You send a guy, and I think you have an opportunity to push one in between first and second. Instead, it goes up into the air. Schubert trying to find it initially. He gets called off by Sawyer Chesley. And there's 2 outs. Mark, more often, especially lately, we're starting to see pitchers decide that they want to take over on those pop-up in the infield.
Yeah, Schubert comes off the mound. You thought he was going to call it. Chesley calls him off the ball. What I like what Schubert did, though, is he trotted over to cover third just in case the ball is dropped, even though it was in foul territory.
Swing and a miss by Jason McDonald. McDonald saw that one going high and in tight. Offered, couldn't catch it, 0-1. Top four, 2-1 is our score. As Schubert brings it close, Rocks fires from the set, and he gets a called strike, 0-2.
Schubert is sneaky fast. I mean, you can sit back here and watch him, but there's always that time he rears back, gets a little extra on his fastball, has very good control of his fastball and breaking ball.
To home, that's up and high. Mark, you notice one thing with Schubert. Anytime that he misses his location like that, that shoulder drops down.
It almost looks like he's throwing 3/4, doesn't it?
It does. When he's on top of the baseball, he catches the corners and it has great movement. But when he misses, you see that shoulder drop. On top of it there, toss down to second, tag, in time. A beautiful throw by Jacob Sharp and a better tag by Denbo at second. That's going to bring the Hornets up to the plate here in the bottom of the fourth. You're watching Fullerton College Baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net. So a runner caught stealing to end the top half of the fourth. That brings up Aguilar once again. Aguilar with a lot of attention all around this ball game. But as of right now, just spotting a 2-1 lead. 2 runs, 5 hits, and no errors for Cypress. On the other side for the Hornets, 1 run on 3 hits and 1 error. Mark, you look at Fullerton College, they're not having any trouble really getting on base. It's just a matter of what you and I were talking about, moving over those runners.
Yeah, and when you look at it, they're hanging in this game on a really strong play by Schubert. Some of the other games going around, Ryan, in the CCCAA currently with this Fullerton game at the same time.
As across the state of California, one thing that you notice, Mark, is that the Orange Empire Conference here in Southern California is essentially the only conference of note that has decided to bring live play into action right now.
Hitter number 49, Julian Tellez.
And Julian Tellez will be up next. You look at Mount Sac having to play out of their conference so that way they can actually get some games in. Everyone in LA County being shut down for the entire season. And Tellez grounds this one foul. You got to think that's interesting when it comes to eligibility requirements, Mark, because you look at Los Angeles County with none of them being in play. Well, now all of a sudden you look at it and you say, okay, if that special CCCAA rule came in that said that this year doesn't count towards eligibility going and moving on, well, what do you say about the 2020 year?
Yeah, I mean, it's that weird year that people get to, you know, I keep looking for it. A year I don't get any older. It just doesn't happen for me. I guess this COVID year doesn't count, so therefore I went backwards.
2 balls and 1 strike. Tellez jammed in on the hands. Nice pitch by Aguilar, and Deza is able to make the catch.
Center fielder number 42, Brian Landon.
Now here's Brian Landon.
So that means I'm younger. Corey Nealon's got more flexibility. Ed Ford is still living in Orange County. Joe actually, okay, well, I'm sorry, Joe. Some things you go back to no matter where you go. It's just the wrong turn.
Here's Brian Landon.
Sort of like Ryan sitting in an airport all day long, not knowing which flight to get on.
Well, if time's going back, I'd still be in the terminal. Swing to miss by Landon, and it's 0-2. No balls and 2 strikes. And there's a strikeout. So there's 2 gone, and David Barrios up next. Don't worry, Joseph.
Shortstop number 15,
If Mark
David
goes back in
Barrios.
time, he'll still call him Shinola Prince. Here's Barrios having to duck out of the way of this one, 1-0.
That's okay. You'll still be waiting for Mr. Crandall in that interview.
Dribbler over to second, and Desa is able to make the play. On to first, out number 3. We go to the top half of the 5th. It's 2-1. Cypress College with the lead. You're watching Fullerton College baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net.
You know, when you think about SportsNetUSA.net and watching this game today, don't forget, we're out here at a community college having fun this day, but you may be sitting at home right now saying, gosh, I wish I could do something that was a little fun. Maybe I could do what the guys are doing. Well, you could come down to KBPK and check out the radio courses they've got there. Joe, who runs the station, give you a little private tour, let you know about the facility itself, or Ryan Osborne, both of them. Or maybe you just want to say, hey, guys, I could do sports as well as you, Corey Nalen, Ryan Osborne, you name the individuals. Well, there's a 145 sports class, or theater, or maybe just an art class, or maybe you just need those 6 units to get that degree. No better place to go than your local community college. So take a little time out. Check the community college out in your area. See what they've got going for them, classes or just playtime, and stop by and say hi. And don't forget, when there's a game like this, when COVID sort of disappears a little more, go out and watch these great student athletes, these young men and women who give up their time to play the games they love and use those games to educate them into that next level that they're seeking, be it D1, D2, D3, or NAIA. They'll walk away doctors, lawyers, engineers, or maybe your next educator at a community college.
So Cypress College here in the top half of the 5th inning. Starting off with Jason McDonald. Brendan Harris being tossed out at second, allowed for McDonald to be back up in this one. 1 ball and no strikes as he has to get out of the way of it. Here's Schubert's next delivery. There's a called strike, 1-1. One ball, 1 strike, make it 2-1. Again, our score 2-1. Cypress up over top of Fullerton College here in the top half of the 5th inning. Over at third, Sawyer Chesley. Pretty even with the bag, maybe a step or 2 behind. And it's a 3-1 count. Everyone in the infield, Mark. You see just how well these guys trust their arms, because they're sitting right at the outfield grass up in the middle of the infield, and then also at the corners. They're pretty back. There's a walk that is going to be given to McDonald, so the catcher is on, and David Canales up next.
Shortstop number 2, David Canales.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm always amazed when I watch baseball players today, especially the young guys, how deep they play at all their positions. Yet it is easier to come in on a ball. It's a better angle you might be giving yourself at short and second.
Pickoff attempt over at first. Not there in time. Chesley, Barrios, Denbo, and Malerba from left to right in the infield. Outfield of Martinez, Landon, and Dar. To home, swing and a miss, toss down to second, throws there in time. The tag is going to get away. That allows for McDonald to get all the way down to third. This time, Mark, for the second consecutive attempt. The throw was there in time. It's a matter of whether or not that tag gets applied.
Yeah, and that's where what happens is you take your eyes off the ball because you see the runner coming at you.
This is lined down the third base side and foul. Rocketed.
And that's exactly what happened because, Ryan, you're right on the money. That was a good throw. It beats the runner. You feel that ball make the tag. The runner's thrown out at second base. And that's one of the things, being that person standing there, you need to be able to catch the ball and then say, if I get smacked, oh, well, he's out.
Fouled back. That's another thing that has really gone in the game of baseball. And, of course, you want the more violent collisions to go away, naturally. But infielders, just overall in the entire game, not wanting to get into any contact. This gets all the way to the backstop and takes a friendly Fullerton bounce. So staying at third is McDonald.
Yeah, Ryan, I can't agree with you more on that. You see more players getting, and we understand on the professional level, they don't want their career ended. On the collegiate level, same thing. You're hoping that maybe you're good enough to play at the next level. But, you know, there were a lot of players in the old days that played hard-nosed baseball and played for their 25 to 30 years.
To home, and Canales is retired for the second straight at-bat. And when you talk about hard-nosed baseball, Mark, you're not necessarily talking about going and purposefully trying to run over a catcher just for the sake of doing so, or just trying to break up a double play in violent fashion. You're just talking about, just in general, if a guy is sliding in towards second, you know that he's coming in. You know that those cleats are going to hit you. You know that the leg is going to end up hitting your arm. But you see guys, and I'm not talking about this game, but you see it especially on the professional level, where guys will do all that they can so that way they just don't get any contact whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And it costs them outs. High to Hopper, over to second. Conceding the run is Fullerton, as Denbo is going to go on to first. And McDonald comes across the score for a 3-1 lead.
Second baseman number 7.
Smart play by Denbo. Takes that big hop, concedes the run. Now, people will argue. RBI, earned run? Well, you can call it an RBI, but is it an earned run? Because the runner's on third base because of the non-catch and tag at second.
One ball and no strikes. And Mark, if you were personally scoring, what would you call it?
I would call it an unearned run.
Really?
Yeah, I'd call it, because he doesn't score on that. He moves to third base. So you could change it to an earned run if this batter gets a base hit.
Well, outside, 2-0. Make it 3-0.
If you get the batter who is currently at the plate out, then it's an unearned run.
Schubert winds and fires, looking for the inside half. Desa thought that it was going to be a called strike on the inner half, but he is more than happy to take a jog down to first.
Yeah, I think Schubert thought that was his pitch also. It's been a consistent area where the umpire's been calling it. There you go again, Ryan, though. Was it maybe in the right place, but too high?
Seemed like it was just a shade high and tight, at least from our vantage point. You mentioned the umpire kind of peering over the shoulder of the catcher. It does affect where the strike zone is.
Yeah, it actually does. It moves things, and that's why every umpire's got their own strike zone.
1 ball and no strikes. 2 outs. Toss to first. Nice job by Malerba to keep that in front. Markey stays with that over at the first base bag. Otherwise, that's down into the corner. On to first. And that is going to be Desa sliding back safely again. 2 out. Schubert trying to get out of the top half of the fifth. He's already surrendered one. 3-1 score as Schubert takes a look and brings it home. There's the strike. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Schubert again pitching an excellent game for this Hornet team. Here through 5.
One toss to first, and back safely once again is Desa. One in the dirt, gets away. Desa down to second easily.
So we'll score that a wild pitch. It bounced short of the plate.
Marco Malerba taking 3 steps towards the line, and he's going to watch it go to 3-1. So Schubert, for the most part, got into a little cruise control up until the 5th. And then over the last 4 batters, he has given up a run and gone to a 3-ball count on each of the last 2 hitters. Make it 3 hitters in a row, as this is a chopper. Down to third, looking off the runner is Sawyer Chesley. He'll toss it to first, and Malerba will make the catch. 1 run on the board off of 1 hit, no errors, and 1 runner left on base. Fullerton College trailing it by 2 now at 3-1. We go to the bottom half of the 5th. You are watching Fullerton College baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net. You know, earlier, Mark, Shanola Prince was mentioned. Player for the football team here at Fullerton College. And speaking of that football team, they're going to be playing today at 4 p.m. So now you've got Fullerton College football starting to get back into the swing of things if you're a Hornet athletic fan. And it's just signs of good things to come, especially in the fall.
Yeah, well, the CCCAA has declared that in September, football season will be back. And that all comes down that if everybody wears their mask, everybody gets their shots, everybody watches out for the person next to them like we all do here on SportsNetUSA.net, that things may come back to a new normal where we keep our mask on and everything else. So we'll see what happens as we, with our great producer, Joseph Pavlenko, always make sure that everybody stays within social distancing, keep their mask on.
Malerba comes up and swings and misses 0-1.
Maybe next inning we'll take a look around the conference and see what everybody else is doing besides us.
One ball and 1 strike to Malerba, joined by Chesley. And then we'll get closer towards the top of the order for the Hornets. 1 ball and 1 strike. Aguilar out there for his 5th inning of work, brings it home, and Malerba adjusts in the zone, but behind it will end up being McDonald, and he'll make the catch. 1 gone, bottom 5.
Hey, Ryan Osborne, I know you gave us the word for cucumber in Spanish, but I just got a request from one of the fans. They say you're bilingual, so they'd like to see if you can call these next 2 at-bats all in Spanish here on SportsNetUSA.net.
You know what? I would have to study a little bit more for that.
Okay. All right.
Because I don't think, as of right now, I'd give it justice in a sense of when you call baseball, it's not a direct translation, as it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Baseball has to be translated into its own slang. So for example, if you're saying that someone pitches, instead of the traditional just translation that they throw it, instead you're saying lanzar, which is more of a traditional thing with a sword that you would attribute, as this is going to be tossed over to first in time. And 2 outs are on the board.
Second baseman, number 19.
So it's not a direct translation that you would think of, oh, okay, you know, I can just take what I normally say in English and just bring it right over. You've got to be able to get the actual lingo of Spanish baseball calls. But I would be more than willing to do that this season.
All right, so down the road, we'll get Ryan Osborne, maybe not today, but down the road for the individual that sent me a little text. Mr. Osborne will work at his craft here a little, and maybe in the next couple games when we're back on the air, Ryan
Absolutely.
Osborne will call an inning or so in his version of Spanish, Mexican, whatever people want to call it.
You know what? I think for me, it'd be a mix of Colombian and then also we'll say the California mix of Spanish.
Okay.
Because it's definitely not the traditional style of northern Mexico, and it's definitely not South American. That's going to bounce in.
So a little variety here on SportsNetUSA.net. Our producer, Joseph Pavlenko, got all excited because he thought somebody was going to let him call a game where he only referred to swords and lances and daggers. And speaking of a dagger, well, on that last pitch, Ryan, that's exactly what it was.
As Brock Denbo will end up seeing that one go right past him. Strike 3 call. We go top 6. It's 3-1 Fullerton College with a deficit right now. You are watching Fullerton College baseball on SportsNetUSA.net. And Mark, I want to go back to that just for a second before we get to the out-of-town scoreboard. The thing with calling a game in Spanish is that it's really important for these Hornet players as well and their families, because as we've had the families talk to us before, a lot of times it'll be mom, dad, grandmother at home, maybe some cousins as well who are tuning in. And yeah, they're able to watch or listen to their son, brother, daughter, across all athletics here at Fullerton College play. Yeah, they're able to watch it and listen to it, but it takes on a different understanding when they're able to hear it in their own native tongue as well.
Yeah, it's too true. I mean, that's true if we watch a broadcast from across the ocean and listen to it, and somebody, if they're doing the Irish League, does it in a certain dialect, or they actually do it in Welsh. And, you know, you really do. I mean, best example of that is Tom Stoppert's play Dog Hamlet, Cahoots Macbeth. If you ever get a chance to watch it, it's all about linguistics.
As you take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard, Orange Coast 6-0 over Saddleback in the bottom half of the 5th. Santa Ana and Irvine Valley College, it's a 1-1 score at the bottom half of the 4th there, with Mount Sac and Golden West tied at 0. So you take a look at the Orange Empire Conference out-of-town scoreboard. And for the most part, everyone keeping it really close. You know, we've seen in the last 3 weeks where we'll take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard, and all of a sudden you'll see a 13-10 game, a 15-7 game, maybe even a 19-1 game. And then all of a sudden, now you have a day like today where you look at the out-of-town scoreboard and you say everyone's keeping it either really close or they're tied. As Dar is going to pick this one up after a single by Sloninger.
Well, it takes me back to your conversation. Are they finally getting used to playing the game of baseball? Since they didn't get to go out here during COVID, which restricted a lot of athletes from doing what they normally do before their season starts.
Toss to first. Back in time is Sloninger. As that brings up Maciel. You know what, Mark? Now you've got me thinking as to whether or not it's possible to get a Spanish interview as well on the Coach's Show.
Well, now, that might be interesting because you could probably do that with our softball coaches. An interview that's going to be coming up here on sportsnetusa.net and 90.1 KBPK.
That bounces in. And Sharp trying to find it. Now he's going to bluff a toss to first. And it's 1 ball and 1 strike.
I love that communication. He's looking for the ball, and all of a sudden you thought maybe you were at Popeyes because everybody was yelling, feet, 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 because, if you've ever eaten their chicken, it could be just chicken feet that you're eating. That's usually what somebody will say to you when you walk out with a bag of, something from there. Somebody's going to be yelling feet, and that could be in English and Spanish when you walk out of there.
One ball and 1 strike.
Well, there went that sponsorship.
Outside. 2 and 1. Three runs, 6 hits, no errors for Cypress College. Fullerton, 1 run, 3 hits, and 2 errors. Here's Schubert to home. Catches it. 2 and 2.
I was waiting for a text from Ed Ford in the high desert telling me that's what he orders every Friday night. I'd like a bucket of feet, please.
Hint of pigeon. Out towards center field. It's got some backspin to it, and it's going to get down. Landon drops it for a second, but this time he'll keep it in front. And it's a no-out single, back-to-back for Cypress, putting 2 on.
Ryan, a tough play by your center fielder, Landon. Do you come charging in and make that shoestring attempt? If the ball gets missed, it goes to the 405 mark and a run scores. Or do you do what he does, circle the wagon, let it drop in front of you, and hold the lead runner to second base?
One thing that's interesting, Mark, while we go out into center field to set up our center field camera before each game, it's normally during Fullerton's batting practice, you'll see the ball as it gets sent into center field. The rotation of the ball each and every time, as soon as it hits the grass, it skips in the almost a 45 to 90 degree angle away from where it was coming from. And that's kind of what you've seen here with Landon twice, is that the ball is hit in front of him. It skipped a different way at an angle, and this is bunted towards the third base side. Tossed to third in time. Nice job by Schubert there to be active off the mound and get it over to the third base bag for out number 1.
Right fielder number 5, Ricky Lane.
Yeah, talk about Schubert coming off the mound. Not only do you need to be a pitcher, but you need to be that extra defensive ball player. And the thing that you liked about that, he had made up his mind as soon as the ball hit the ground, I'm going to third no matter what. And that decision allows him to get the force out on that play.
So 1 out on the board. And there's a called strike.
Ron, I got to go back
up.
I got to go back to your statement, though. I think that's a real interesting statement because when you talk about playing the outfield, everybody thinks about the fly ball. Nobody ever thinks about when the ball hits the grass, what it may do.
And it all depends on what and how wet the grass is in the outfield as well, or also the dirt directly beneath it. If it's a little bit more swamped in a certain area compared to, well, specifically here at Hornet Field, we see it in center field compared to right. In center field, it's a lot more damp, a lot wetter, and every time that you see the ball go out there, it'll make an indent and take 1 small hop. In right field, it's a little bit more baked to the floor, a lot more firm, and if you see a bounce in right field, it's going to skip away with speed going into the ivy.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation on your part, watching these outfielders.
Joseph Pavlenko brought up something as well. The brand new Humanities building directly behind us. Almost the exact same color that a baseball is. So if you're in the outfield here at Fullerton College trying to pick up the baseball off the bat, well, already you're having to fight with one condition that you weren't expecting. One ball and one strike with one out. Runners on first and second. Ricky Lane at the plate taking on Schubert. Schubert takes a deep breath. Look at the runner at second and brings it low. 2-1. Three, 7, and 0 for Cypress on the scoreboard. 1, 3, and 2 for Fullerton. Cypress team that is 4 games above 500 overall and 6 above 500 in the conference play. This is out towards right and just what we were talking about. That ball skips all the way into the corner. Harris is going to be stopped around third. That ends up getting one across. And Cypress extends their lead to 4-1. And Mark, we had just mentioned it moments ago in right field. If that ball hits, it's going to skip away because of how low to the ground the grass is, and it gets over to the ivy with speed.
Yeah, and that's the thing with playing. That's where you're supposed to have a home field advantage, where you know what's going on. And again, when you look at Lane, basically a singles hitter, he puts it in the right spot with his speed to get a stand-up double.
Bounces in. And you see from Sharp there, Mark, especially over the last 3 or 4 at-bats, fully selling out behind home plate to make sure that that doesn't get past him.
And this is the inning that we have seen Schubert as he's trying to develop to go deeper and deeper into a game. It's usually around the 6th inning that we'll see Schubert start to struggle just a little from the mound.
Mark, if you watch that release point, it seems like once he gets behind an account, all of a sudden it's like he's trying to pull the ball towards home plate.
Yeah, you'll hear it a lot of times, Ryan, where they'll say a pitcher tries to aim the ball because they can't find home plate. So they try and, it's like us who play catch once in a while. We sort of try to make sure we throw it exactly the same because we can't control it from our side to 3/4 to straight over consistently.
2-0. Curve. Leaves that low. 3-0, and I think Schubert thought he had strike one. 3 balls, no strikes. Runners on second and third. 1 out, top 6, 1 across already for Cypress. It's 4-1. That is going to be a walk. So now the bases are loaded, and Chad Baum is going to have a discussion, and it looks like he's going to be going to the bullpen.
And let us go back and talk about the young man on the mound, Ryan, because he really does. He gives you 5 solid 5 innings, which he's done all season. Probably the most consistent starter of this staff for the Hornets. He reaches that 5th or 6th inning, and there's a little struggle that goes on. And we saw him in the Irvine Valley game where all of a sudden they left him in, and the next 2 hitters just tore him apart. If you'd have taken him out, not saying the Hornets would have won, but he'd have walked away with an excellent game on the mound. So we'll see what's going to happen today here with 1 out, see if they're going to keep him out there, and it looks like the decision has been made.
So Schubert will stay out there. And initially it looked like when Coach Baum went out to the mound, he made the motion like he was going to go to the bullpen.
And the thing is, too, somebody from the bullpen might have said, hey, they're not ready.
So Schubert goes back out there with bases loaded. He throws a curve to start things off against Canales. That's a big pitch there, Mark. You know that you haven't located the last 3 or 4 fastballs. You go breaking pitch. And he gets it for a called strike. Next opportunity, back to the breaking ball, and this time it lands in the dirt 3 or 4 feet in front.
Boy, Ryan, you've been so right about his battery mate, has been in the dirt all day long, saving him on the mound.
One ball and one strike, one away. Fastball over towards third, picked up by Chesley. The easy throw on to second, on to first, and they've got the double play. Exactly what Schubert needed to get out of the inning. One across for Cypress, but Fullerton defensively is able to turn a 5-4-3. We go to the bottom half of the sixth. It's 4-1 Cypress. You are watching Fullerton College baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborne, Mark Pavlovich, Joseph Pavlenko joining you live from Fullerton College, where Cypress leads at 4-1. And we like to remind you that coming up tomorrow, Fullerton College and the softball team are going to be back here on SportsNetUSA.net. So make sure you keep it locked right here on SportsNetUSA.net as we continue to bring you coverage of both the baseball and the softball teams.
Yeah, and let's give a little love. You get to hear Ryan Osborne all the time. Corey Nalen was out here the other day. The new voice of the Sparks, Rashawn Haylock, was out here a week ago. And the quiet man who makes wisecracks off the air, Joseph Pavlenko, has been out here for every game. And so when you look at it, and I know as a fan, everybody does it. They watch, they go, what's the score? All of a sudden you see the scoreboard come up, you go, great. You see who's playing center field, the defensive setups comes up. You'll see the scores from around town. That's all because of our wonderful producer, Joseph Pavlenko, bringing up these graphics, and him and Ryan Osborne have created them all year long, and we hope to your enjoyment, everything that we add to these broadcasts make your visitation much more enjoyable here on SportsNetUSA.net.
First pitch, Martinez. Wouldn't you know it, he singles into center field. So Martinez up at the plate 3 times today. He gets on all 3 to this point, and that is going to bring up Jacob Sharp.
Catcher number 3, Jacob Sharp.
Jacob Sharp has played one heck of a defensive game today, Ryan. He's thrown out somebody who tried to steal. Should have had 2. If the ball would have been fielded cleanly, he would have had 2 throwouts from behind the plate. And I tell you what, he must have loved, when he was a little kid, he must have been the kid that just sprayed the water and rolled around in the mud. Because you look at him right now, he looks like somebody who just loves to play in dirt.
Up and tight. 1 ball and no strikes. Saw his last home run, that grand slam that he had last week. You got to watch out for a fastball high in the zone, because that's where Sharp has had a lot of success. They go fastball inside, and it tails just about a foot foul.
Joseph, I've got to tell you, I had a fan that just texted me who loves the graphics that you've been doing here on SportsNetUSA.net.
Great job.
1 ball and 1 strike.
Ryan, the Hornets are in this game, and this is where we've talked about if they could find that one magical hit right about now, this season would be resolved. There would be a positive spin on a different sort of season.
Sharp into the air, out towards center. Still going back on it is Soika, and he'll make the catch. Brings it back in, and Matt Darr up next. And I was just about to ask you, Mark,
Right fielder, number
with the
11,
third baseman and
Matt Darr.
shortstop shaded so far back, would you have sent Martinez and bunted one down the third base line?
Yeah, I would. I still think you can utilize the run if you're this Hornet team. And really, when you look at the one that Sharp just hit, realize he's just short of the warning track at the 405 mark. A lot of height. If he had a little less height and more distance, it'd have been a version of Corey Nalen. You'll laugh later.
Well, I was going to say, I didn't think a home run trot was that slow.
Oh,
That's tying in. 1 ball and 1 strike.
boy, is that love from somebody who brought you a bottle
I
of
was
water
gonna
and
say,
donuts?
yeah.
Wow, wow.
1 ball and 1 strike. It's okay because I might be the only one slower. This is in towards center field. It gets through. Martinez coming around second. He's going to get to third easily. And it's first and third with 1 out.
Do you think somebody was listening to us here on sports@usa.net and just said to the bench, hey guys, maybe you ought to do what the two broadcasters are asking and give it to Dominic Martinez. He's almost at second. He stops just to make sure, hey, if you're going to snag it, you're going to have to get me at first base.
So Dar singles into center, and now all of a sudden Tellez coming up with 1 swing of the bat. He could change the dynamic of this ball game. He tries to hold up on that one, and it looks like it goes off the knob of the bat there, Mark. So it will end up being ruled a foul ball.
And again, Ryan, I've got to start Matt Dar over at first base. I've got to make them, Cypress, make a decision. Do I throw to second to get the runner, or do I snap throw to third, maybe getting Martinez sleeping in the bag?
Oh, 1. Inside half, and it's 1-1. Well, that's the thing, Mark, is that if you send Dar and Cypress decides not to throw down, well, now with 1 out, you've got second and third. If they decide to throw down,
I'm sending Martinez. I'm playing for fun.
You let him go.
Yeah, I'm playing for fun.
1 ball and 1 strike. Toss back. Dar almost tagged in time. And you saw him take 1 extra lean towards the second base bag.
Yeah, if you're Dominic Martinez now, depending on what the Hornets do, you need to be ready at third base.
Back to first it goes, and it gets away. Martinez is going to take off. There goes Dar. He's still got some time to run if he'd like, but he decides to stay at second, and the Hornets get on the board.
So let me take this back to a conversation you and I had early when we thought they should run and said, hey, you get the runner at third base with 2 outs. What can happen? We brought it up then. If you've got a runner at third, a pass ball, a wild pitch, or an error scores your run. What happens on that play? A bad pickoff move allows Martinez to get in. The Hornets didn't hit the ball. They didn't do anything else except allow Cypress to make a mental mistake.
So 1 ball and 1 strike with Tellez at the plate. A lot of power in his bat if he can get behind one. Aguilar to home. Fastball inside. Aguilar was topping out about 92-93. And with a 2 ball and 1 strike count, he's got to worry about Dar.
And this is where, Ryan, you've brought it up before. Right side of the infield is open. Hit behind the runner if you can.
Tellez is going to stay away from this one, 2-2.
Great pitch to go after.
Two and two, 1 gone. Already 1 across for Fullerton here in the bottom half of the 6th. It's 4-2 Cypress. Tellez at the plate. Dar at second. Dar bluffs over towards third. Aguilar takes a quick peek, and this is out towards right field and down the line fair. Matt Dar is going to be sent, and he will come around to score with no throw coming across. And it's 4-3 Cypress.
And once again, I'm going to go back to Ryan Osborne, who has emphasized running by this team a few games back. What has it done in this game? Well, it's put people in position. When a mistake has been made, they're allowed to score. 1 mistake has allowed 2 runs to come in this game, in this inning, because the Hornets are a running baseball team a la Ryan Osborne.
1 ball, no strikes to Brian Landon. A 4-3 score. Fullerton with 2 in the bottom half of the 6th here. And that's going to get fouled back.
I don't know, Ryan. Maybe they looked at the old guy when I said, hey, if you guys can't win, I get the choice of anybody's bat when we were setting up again today, because I get to tease with these young, really nice young student athletes out here. Maybe they really thought the old guy was crazy and would take one.
All the way to the backstop that goes, and Tellez is going to jog down to second.
On the wild pitch. And Ryan, you brought it up earlier in this game too, when you look at Aguilar's ERA 7.20, and we're going to get timeout. It isn't a pitcher that if he got the lead, you couldn't catch him. It was a pitcher that if he got the lead, if he was good, he may have to struggle. But the Hornets have come back in this game, and now they really do need that magical hit.
You've got a guy warming up in the bullpen over to our left for Cypress College, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. As you look at Cypress so far in this ballgame, Mark, it seems like whenever Fullerton is able to go up to the plate and have these at-bats where they sit at the dish and wait until they get a good pitch, Cypress has had a little trouble responding.
Yeah, and they did. And let's give it to the hitters that have been up there. You know, Dominic Martinez has been who he's been. He's that good. Matt Darr gets on base, and then Matt runs too, which allows Martinez to score from third. But what does Tellez do, Ryan? He goes through the gap you've been talking about all day into right field. He actually goes down the right field line. And that gets you in your run here. Better offense by the Hornets today.
Landon, right side, gets away from Desa for a second, and he can't get to it. That will be an error over at second base. And the Hornets with an extra opportunity to stay up there.
Shortstop, number 15, David Barrios.
That's very similar to something that we'd seen from Fullerton College on the other side, fielding-wise. And now all of a sudden they're forcing Cypress to have to play to them.
And what you saw is he took his eyes off to see where the runner was going from second to third. That distracted him enough. And now if I actually had speed over at third base, Ryan Osborne, I would do one of the things I love the most. I would drop a bunt on a squeeze play to tie this game up.
1 ball and no strikes. Barrios sees a called one there, and it's 1-1. And you know what, Mark? See, here's where I might be a little crazy on this. I'd push one down the right side towards second base because he is so deep. Surprise him with Tellez coming home. 1 ball and 1 strike, 1 out. Barrios in on the hands and fouls it away.
Well, see, and I like the call. I would love to see you do that. I would, with Barrios up there, just say to him, hey, look, you're fast enough. If you can push it out there, and look at Tellez at third and say, excuse me, as soon as he makes his move to square, you're coming home. If he misses it, or maybe you'll steal home plate. Who knows?
Just commit to it.
Commit to it, and what excitement that would bring to this Hornet bench if that would have happened.
1-2. Barrios into the air and right, or make it left center.
Tag and go, tag and go.
There
Don't
goes
look, don't
Tellez.
look. Oh.
And he ends up staying over at third. And what happens there is that Tellez ends up tagging. As soon as the catch is made, he is watching the ball over in left field. And so he ends up staying over at third, and Marco Malerba up next. So with 2 outs, Marco Malerba up next, runners at the corners. And he offers at the first pitch. Fouled it away, 0-1. Aguilar. 0-1. Malerba fouls it back. No balls, 2 strikes, and 2 gone. 2 in the top half of the first for Cypress, and then 1 each in the 5th and the 6th. Fullerton with 1 in the bottom half of the first and 2 in the 6th. Time is called as Malerba is at the dish. 0-2. 2 away, 4-3 Cypress. Tellez at third. Landon over at first. Left-handed hitting. Marco Malerba at the plate. 0-2, Aguilar to home, and Malerba gets a piece and lines it foul. Four runs, 8 hits, and 2 errors for Cypress, and for Fullerton, it's 3, 5, and 2. Toss to first, it gets away. There goes Tellez, and he's going to make it safely. Landon thinking about third, but the ball goes out of play, and Fullerton has tied it.
And once again, because they started a runner with an 0-2 count, Aguilar decides to go over to first base. So running, again, Ryan Osborne, something you've emphasized over the last few games, allows the tying run to come in on mismanagement by Cypress.
No balls and 2 strikes is what it stays at. A tie game at 4-4. Now Malerba sees that go into his feet, and it will end up being ball 1, 1-2. One ball, 2 strikes, 2 gone. Malerba taking a couple extra steps towards home. And Malerba with a high chopper over to short, picked up on to first. It's there, but not before Fullerton plates 3. The Hornets have tied it at 4 as we go to the top of the 7th. You are watching Fullerton College Baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net.
Little Fullerton College softball tomorrow on SportsNetUSA.net. Brad Pickler's bringing his team into town, so we'll see how that works out tomorrow for Crystal and Speedy. First game's at 12 o'clock. Second game's at 2:30. Ryan and I will be on the air for the first game. Then Ryan will be calling the second game by himself here on SportsNetUSA.net. And hopefully the ladies will continue their ways as Dee Ramirez, the OEC and maybe one of the top state players in the game of softball around the area, will be featured tomorrow with Joseph Pavlenko coming up with a new graphic of some sort between now and then. Ryan Osborne also assisting on that here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ed Ford, Ryan Osborne, Joseph Pavlenko. The franchise, Rashawn Haylock, Corey Nealon, Magic Matt will be coming on the air. Few more names, few different people, all here on SportsNetUSA.net.
Now batting for the Chargers, number 9, Andrew Soika.
So Soika comes up to start the top of the 7th. Flew to left, struck out, grounded out to second base his last time up. 0 for 3 today is Andrew.
And he takes the next pitch low. 2 balls and no strikes. It's the top of the order for them, Soika, Desa, and Morales. To home. Over to short. Nice job by Barrios. On one knee, he gets up and throws to first in time. Mark, you look at David Barrios at shortstop. He goes over to his left, slides to his knees so that way he can make sure he keeps his body behind the ball, goes into the glove, and then gets up and makes a solid throw to first.
Yeah, and you saw that ball come off the bat. It was tailing on him also, so it looked like it had a dragon's tail whipping in the breeze, and he controlled that dragon to get the out.
No balls and 1 strike to Desa. Each of his last 2 times that he's been up, there's been really solid contact, a home run and a very long fly ball. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Yeah, he's another person you look at. He reminds you of Dominic Martinez in the sense that he's lanky with a fluid swing, where that gets all his power from.
That drops low. A few moments ago, Schubert was told to put the rosin bag back because it was seeable in the field of play. But Mark, when you look at Desa and his swing, not only is it smooth, it's like a looping uppercut. As you see it there, it goes into center field though. And Landon, after 1 quick step, is able to camp underneath it to make the catch for 1 away. And that will bring up the next hitter for them in Kobe Morales. Schubert, brand new batter in Morales, and he will take that low for no balls and 1 strike. Up into the air, over towards the left. Getting away from Chesley. He's trying to get to it in time, sliding over, and it drops in between 3 different Hornets.
Look at the hustle by Chesley. I mean, you have a third base person that heads out, which would normally be normal left field, looking over his left shoulder, trying to discover the baseball while he's doing it, and comes from a cat's whisker, almost making a circus play.
Oh, 0-2 with a couple gone, as that is going to go outside. This is something big for Fullerton in Chesley, is that he is able to go into the 7th thus far. And he very nearly thought that he had strike 3 there, or excuse me, Schubert that is, not Chesley. But if you're the bullpen for Fullerton, Mark, mentally are you saying, oh, thank goodness he was able to get into the later innings, which takes the pressure off of them? On a 2-2, bounces in, make it 3-2.
You know who I think this is really good for? Not only the bullpen, but I think it's good for the young man that's been up there. He has been so close to having really good games, and then something's jumped up and bit him. Either he's had 4 horrible pitching appearances to the next 4 batters at bat, or defense has let him down.
And he's going to end up walking Morales. So he gets ahead of him and then drops behind, and he will walk him.
And I think now if you're the Hornet staff, you keep a close eye on him. You don't let him get in trouble in this inning. I think he's had a spectacular outing in this game. And, you know, this is one of those, if I'm managing the team, I'll take you out before you lose the game.
Outside, 1 ball and no strikes. One thing that we haven't noticed too much so far, Mark, as well, is specific handedness matchups. We see these relievers come in at the start of innings or in relief of other guys, but we haven't really seen a reliever come in specifically to handle lefty on lefties, righty on righties.
Yeah, especially when you're 16 pitchers deep. You know, you would think maybe you have one person that can get a left-hander out, and that's all I can do.
2-0, Sloniger at the dish, and he swings and misses to make it 2-1.
And you really do. You need to have the attitude as one of the all-stars here for Fullerton College. You need to have that crazy attitude like an Al Habrowski when he pitched here. That Al didn't think there was a person alive that could get a base hit off of him.
2-1 in the air, left side. Barrios calling for it, right at short, and he will make the catch. That gets us to the top half of the 7th. You are watching Fullerton College baseball on sportsnetusa.net. Marquez Schubert is going in towards the dugout. He's getting handshakes from everyone. While everyone else getting the high fives and the pats as well, he is getting handshakes from each teammate.
Well, Ryan, I think you and I have watched him pitch enough this year so far. You've played the game, and I keep bringing this up because I'm bringing up players' mentality. You play hockey now. There's that certain thing. You have to have an ego when you play sports. We know we all say we'll play a game for fun, but it's even when Corey Nalen and I play golf, and neither one of us is spectacular golfers, there is an ego out there. We want to beat the other guys. You can't beat anybody more competitive than a Corey Nalen. And when I get an opportunity to play Corey in a sport, even though he's younger and probably better than me, I love beating him at the game if I can. So you got to say about Schubert, Ryan, you got to help somebody out, have an ego out there like you know being an athlete.
Well, Mark, I think the magic word that you hear a lot nowadays is the term swagger, and how much he has when going onto the mound. As you see defensively, it's Julian Aguilar on the mound, and behind home plate is McDonald. Over at first is Morales, and at second is Desa. Shortstop of Canales as Chesley swings through it 0-1. And at third is Sloniger. Outfield from left to right is Ryan Maciel, Andrew Soika, and Ricky Lane. 0-1 count to home. And Chesley sends that one out towards right field. That is dunking towards the floor, but it will be caught by Lane. And it's out number 1.
Second baseman, number 19, Brock Denbo.
Well, you also look at the body language, Mark, of Schubert when he comes off the mound. You're watching him after each and every out get more and more confidence, walking into the dugout, not looking at the floor, but looking at each and every one of his teammates in the eyes. It's a very different look for these pitchers that you can tell as the season goes along, they start to gain more confidence. 1 ball and no strikes to home. And that's over towards the right side and through for Denbo. So Brock Denbo gets on.
Left fielder, number 20, Dominic Martinez.
Dominic Martinez up next. He has been on all 3 at-bats thus far. Couple of hits and a walk as well.
Ryan Osborne, are we sending our runner?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
We know Denbo isn't necessarily the speediest, but the man at the plate can handle the bat. Just a really talented young man, a talented student athlete is coming up next. And if they leave Aguilar out there, you know, this is where, as they're going to bring in a new pitcher, Ryan, but this is where I'm going to call it a Ryan Osborne. Ryan, this is where I do drop that bunt. I think you have a young man so talented at the plate that he can bunt for a base hit. You have runners on at first and second, worst case scenario. And if it's an errant throw, you have runners at second and third with 1 out.
And that's one thing, Mark, is that especially in community college baseball, you look at different storylines of different players. A guy like Dominic Martinez enters this season where Fullerton looks at him and says, yeah, he's going to get some playing time for us. But then all of a sudden he starts getting into the lineup, starts making an impact whenever he's in the lineup. And now you're looking at him as the top of the order guy who is essentially irreplaceable for this team at this point because he continually sparks them on offense. and he gives them a chance while he's in the field as well.
So here's one of those specialists. Raul Herrera comes up. ERA of 2.70 for Cypress now on the mound, the big right-hander. A junior. Strikes out roughly 5.5 people a game when you look at him.
As we get set for the defensive mentions, Raul Herrera on the mound with Jason McDowell. Behind home plate over at first is Kobe Morales. And at second is Deza. Shortstop of Canales and Sloniger at third. Outfield from left to right is Maciel, Soika, and Lean.
One of our strategists watching the game at home says bunt, 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 or play run and hit.
Mark, all you have to do is poke it over towards that left side. That's going to go foul. And even directional hitting would work here, Mark. Maybe you say, okay, well, I'm not comfortable with the bunt being laid down, but you can direction a ball over towards the left center side.
Well, this is where I take a young man like him at the next level and teach him to be able to drag a bunt.
There's a called strike. 0-2.
With his quickness out of the box, with that quick first step as a left-hander, whoever picks up the ball is either going to have to let the runners be standing at second.
Martinez down the left field line, foul.
Or make a bang-bang play on that bunt.
Out one on the board. Denbo over at first has to get back quickly as Herrera tries to keep him in check. Outside against Herrera. They stay that way. It's 1-2.
And when you look at Martinez, he's somebody who can handle a bat too, Ryan. So if you start playing that location game with him, he'll go with you and get that base hit.
We've seen him hit a triple into left field, and here he will send this one into the air. Behind short, it is Canales who makes the catch. So possibly the most dangerous hitter in the order for the moment being in Martinez, finally erased for Cypress. And that will bring up Jacob Sharp with 2 away. Throw to first, not in time. Delivery home. Beautiful breaking ball there, Mark. You see that go about eye high, and then it ends up at knee level.
A little more chatter out of the Hornet dugout than we normally hear.
To the set goes Herrera, brings it home. Down the third baseline, foul. Sharp just missing an extra base hit by 3 to 4 inches left. No balls, 2 strikes, and 2 gone. Runner at first is Denbo. Should the inning continue, Matt Darr would be up next. And Sharp is going to take that outside, 1-2. Outfield from left to right, slightly swung over towards right. Sharp, delivery. This is down the line towards left. If it's fair, it's going to be an extra base hit. It is indeed. Brock Denbo getting held at third base. The throw back in is a good one, and it will hold him to a double. So that's going to bring up Matt Darr. And Mark, you look at that piece of hitting right there. He gets out in front of it and sends it down the line.
Yeah, and you know, the thing that's funny is I was just going to say with a 1-2 count, let's surprise everybody. And I know it sounds really ridiculous now, but I was going to say start the runner. Ryan, if you do with a 1-2 count, you just taken the lead in this game.
Hitter number 49, Julian Tellez.
Tellez is coming up next. So an intentional walk over at first. And they are going to face Tellez rather than having to face Darr.
And I'm sorry, I still dislike that rule.
I don't think it's necessarily a baseball play anymore at that point.
I'm going to walk you, so I won't even throw 4 in case I were to throw an errant one. So you can just have the bag, and it doesn't really affect me as a pitcher. I just don't like it. Make them pitch to you.
No balls,
and if
one
anybody
strike.
says it slows the game down, the game's already slow. Come on. This game will never be a 45-minute exhibition.
And that's the thing, Mark, is that you know what you're signing up for when you're going to watch baseball.
Yeah, I mean, you go to a baseball game, you don't go, hey, I got to get home by 9 to watch the movie. You know, then don't go. It's baseball. It's a day at the park. Enjoy the sun.
0-1. Tellez in the dirt again. And it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Tellez at the plate. Base is loaded for the Hornets with 2 away. Martinez, a few moments ago, getting out. So now you have Denbo over at third, representing the go-ahead run. Everybody after him, it's just gravy. As you're looking at Sharp at second and Darr over at first. Landon in the on-deck circle. Here's Tellez. Offering at this one, sending it into left, but it's going to be playable, and it will end up being caught. So we're going to go to the top of the 8th. The Hornets, with the bases loaded, end up stranding the runners. You're watching Fullerton College Baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net. And an interesting development there just a few moments ago, Mark. Hornets go into the dugout and get warned by the umpire on talking to the other dugout as they are celebrating getting out of the inning.
Yeah, you know, and I think as an umpire, you need to know the teams that you're calling the game and understanding attitude, the excitement, and everything else. And if I was an umpire, I would probably just say, hey, guys, you know, calm it down a little. But that's part of the game, too, that it goes on and people get after each other. We talked about some of the teams here in Orange County, some of the players across the nation that are the top prospects right now. Jordan Lawler out of Irving, Texas. He's going to go to Jesuit College. Marcelo Mayer out of Chula Vista, East Lake High School. Yeah, he's going to USC this year. Tyler Reed out of Vallejo. I can't even say that city's name. Vallejo is going to Oregon. Brady House out of Winder, Georgia. He goes to Winder Barrow High School. He's going to Texas. Chase Petty. Now, that's a baseball name. Chase Petty out of Summers Point in New Jersey. He's going to the Florida Gators. Joshua Baez out of Dexter Southfield is going to go to Virginia. And Ian Moeller is going to be going to LSU. Some of the top high school players around when you think about them right now, going to that next step. So talented high school players making that next step to the next level, be it community college baseball and or D1, D2, or D3 baseball here on Sportsnet USA. Net.
Now batting for the Chargers, number 27, Ryan Masio.
Masio comes up now here to start off the top of the 8th. Singled in the first inning. Popped out to short in the 4th, and then up in the 6th, got a single. Takes that for a ball. Nice little cherry pick over at third base across. One up, one down.
Designated hitter, number 23, Brendan Harris.
So Brendan Harris comes up. Started the game off flying out to center. Singled in the 4th. Then sacrificed in the 6th. Fouls that one off. Garrett Pascal is now on the mound for the Hornets. Freshman out of Yorba Linda High School. 6'3", 200 pounds. Throws a BB to Harris, who can't catch up to it. Garrett's got an ERA of 6.75. Throws another one. Says, hey, if you couldn't see that one, you definitely won't see this one. Rears back and throws. Strikes out Harris for the second out of the inning.
This is a really good spot there for Pascal as well, Mark, because you saw him as a starter for Fullerton. And it's a different mindset for him. Now he can come into a game and say, you know what, I've got a clean inning, and just start throwing at max velocity then, rather than having to warm things up. This is Barrios. Turn around, throw to first, and that goes wild. But nonetheless, it's going to be an infield hit, as Lane would have been aboard either way.
But you like the play by Barrios, who ranges deep into the hole behind second base, picks it up, spins, and lets it fly. I mean, doesn't second clutch that, should I, shouldn't I, let it go? Lets it go. And they do get the advantage of it bouncing straight back to the infield, so nobody advances on the throw. Base hit, no error on the play.
So 2 outs here in the inning, and scooting away from that is McDonald. McDonald has been on once and has scored one of the 4 Cypress runs. Top 8, 4-4 tie between Fullerton and Cypress College. Pascal, next delivery. Inside half, it's there for a strike, 1-1.
And like Ryan Osborne has already brought it up, you got 15 pitchers sitting over there. Couple innings, you might as well start warming everybody up.
Takes a look at the runner on a 1-1. Back up the middle, it's going to go. It's going to go to Denbo, and he makes the tag on the second base bag. Brock Denbo reaching back, trying to get the easy out. Makes it look routine, even though didn't seem like it was, and he makes the athletic play. We're going to go to the bottom half of the 8th. It is Fullerton and Cypress tied at 4. You're watching Fullerton College baseball on SportsNetUSA.net.
Little softball tomorrow. Hey, if you're in the neighborhood, little football. That's right. Fullerton College football at 4 o'clock today. It's a scrimmage. They're getting ready for September. All the guys are going to be out there. Phil Austin is going to be missing Corey Nealon. He wishes Corey would come on out so they could talk about the new defensive backs he's got this year on that Fullerton College football team. But you know, Corey's not in the neighborhood, so he won't make the game. But as the year goes on and comes September, Ryan Osborne, Corey Nalen, Mark Pavlovich, the old guy, going to be calling a little Fullerton College football on SportsNetUSA.net. Golden West College probably coming back again this year on SportsNetUSA.net. LA Valley in the past, East LA, a variety of community college football on SportsNetUSA.net. Cypress, 4 runs, 9 hits, 3 errors. The Hornets, 4 runs, 7 hits, 2 errors.
And you know what, Mark? It's going to be good to have Fullerton College football back, missing those road trips that we would take up to, whether it be LA County, San Diego County, across different county lines, or even up to Santa Clarita.
Exactly. We've had a lot of fun calling Fullerton College football on SportsNetUSA.net.
Elias Rios is going to start things off here in the inning. No balls and 1 strike.
Wait a minute, that's my bat. Time. That's my bat.
Delivery home. Outside. It's going to get all the way to the backstop. Barrios will retrieve. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And if people are wondering what I'm talking about, I found Mr. Rios' bat in the parking lot. I kept it here in the broadcast booth. Game went by, nobody said they lost the bat.
This is over towards third, and it's going to go in and out of the glove. Tossed down to first, not in time, and Rios beats it out.
Corey Nalen, I am now 2 for 2 with that bat since I've given it back to him. And so, to end up that conversation, I was showing it to everybody in the dugout. Hey, look at this bat I found. I'm going to take it home. It's going to help me stretch, being an old guy. One of the players goes, wait a minute. Where'd you find that? I said, I found it in the parking lot. Somebody threw it away. Rios had it drop out of his bag, came trotting over here and said, do you have my bat? And I showed it to him, and he goes, oh, thank you. That's my favorite bat. So now it's his and my bat.
Bunted, first base side, pushed away. It's going to be tossed to first, just nearly beating it out as Barrios. But just what we've been asking for all game long. We get the bunt, and the runner moves up to second.
They do listen to the broadcast here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborne, Mark Pavlovich, Corey Nalen strategy, moving the go-ahead run to second base.
You know what, Mark? If I'm Fullerton, I'd do it again.
I'm with you.
Push it down the first base side. The first baseman in Morales is deep over at first. And instead it goes as a single into right center field. Malerba is going to get the stop sign as Morales will bring it back in. And now the Hornets have runners on first and third with 1 out.
And Ryan Osborne, if my next batter knew how to bunt, and I know Scott Beck always hated this, if it could be a squeeze play, Pavlovich would call it. I think this is one of the most exciting plays in baseball. Runner at third in a tie game, drop that bunt and squeeze the go-ahead run home.
As it forces time to be called. And you know, Mark, the first game of the season that we had here and also at softball, you were talking about chatter, banter in the dugouts. How come you don't get that in baseball as opposed to what you do in softball? Now all of a sudden you're seeing it not only more here in the game of baseball, but now you're seeing both dugouts here, but also in other games that we watched have to be warned about how loud they're getting.
You know what? I don't mind the banner. I don't mind the smack talk. If it finally where people step on the field or somebody goes head hunting, then I walk over to both benches and say, okay, guys, it has escalated to this, as we're going to get a new pitcher for Cypress. But I like the chatter at each other.
Gives a new dimension to it.
Yeah, it does. And it makes it a little more fun. And because there's no fans, it adds a little flair to the game.
as Colton Bolger is going to be throwing for Cypress. So far this year, 7 appearances, 9 2/3 innings pitched, 1.86 ERA.
Corey Nalen, I am still calling the squeeze play to take the lead. A brand new pitcher comes in the game. I don't know how he's going to jump off the mound. And like Ryan Osborne will say, everybody's playing pretty deep. I mean, they're playing all the way to Tahunga out there in the infield.
They're playing just as Bolger gets set to end up finishing off his warm-up tosses here. Fullerton College was trailing 2-0 after the first inning of play. They get one back in the bottom half of the first. You move it on over to the fifth, where Cypress gets one in the top half and one in the top half of the sixth as well. But then in the bottom half of the sixth, Fullerton with a 3-run rally, giving them the opportunity to tie it at 4-4. And that's where we sit right now here in the 8th inning, a 4-4 tie. And it looks like we may get Ryan Lemastra to come up to the plate for Fullerton College, and he'd be the first one to face Bolger. So with one out, Fullerton still waiting for the opportunity to take on Bolger. And Ryan Lemastra is officially announced as the pinch hitter for Fullerton. Chad Baum going over to talk to Lemastra. So, Mark, now you've got a guy coming up to the plate who does know how to lay down a bunt. We've seen it here and at Chino Hills High School from Lemastra. They're going to hold on the runner over at first. And second and third, or excuse me, short and third are both a step in now. But a gaping hole over at the first base side in between first and second. Lemastra shows bunt, brings it back. And that right there would have been a nice pitch to go after, as that was low in the zone, a curveball. You can take the curve of the pitch and take it the opposite way. One ball and no strikes. Shows bunt. This time sends it down the first base side. Here's the squeeze. It's Elias Rios getting down. He's safe. The squeeze play is on, and Mark Pavlovich loves to see it as Elias Rios comes across to score for Fullerton.
Ryan Osborne, they do watch the Fullerton College baseball games here on sportsnetusa.net. Coach Baum, thank you for calling the right play on that, because, Ryan, you know I would have rolled my eyes if they wouldn't have done it. Great call by Fullerton College, and again, that is such an exciting game inside a game, the squeeze play.
Now it gives you the chance to swing away here. Still only one out, and bluffing a bunt there.
And Ryan,
what
was interesting, Cypress was looking for the steal, and I thought, this is the time to pull a double steal. Baum waits. Now maybe this is the time to play run and hit.
No balls and one strike. They're going to bunt it down the third base side. It's into foul territory. So Fullerton, innings 1 through 7, 0 bunts. Inning 8, they've got 4 attempts already. And 1 run has come across to score to give them a 5-4 lead.
To our fan that just texted in, yeah, you're right. The old guy still knows how to play baseball, and he still knows how to manage a team if he was out there. because that squeeze play was what we called here in the booth, and that's why we've got the lead for Fullerton College now here in the 8th inning.
0-2, strike 3 call. Denbo watches it all the way. And that will bring up Martinez.
Left fielder, number 20, Dominic Martinez.
So, Mark, now you've got the bunt essentially taken away from you at 2 outs.
I send my runners.
Martinez will send it right back up the middle. It's going to be gathered and thrown on to first just in time. But nonetheless, Fullerton has taken the lead at 5-4. The squeeze play, scoring Rios. We go to the top of the 9th as Fullerton tries to close out on a win. If they can shut down Cypress, 3 more outs here in the top half of the 9th. As we go there, you're watching Fullerton College Baseball here on SportsNetUSA.net.
Ryan Osborne, now I'm going to go, and I know there's our friend that's listening at home that's been texting me during the game. Guys, we have a plethora of arms over in the dugout for Fullerton. If anybody gets within a breath's hair of being in trouble, I bring out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pitchers to get those 3 outs. Fullerton, Ryan, finally got the play they needed to take a lead, and now you need to finish it off here on SportsNetUSA.net.
So we've got a couple of changes to go over here as Ryan Lamastra just a few moments ago takes over at second base. Moving from second over to third for Fullerton is going to be Brock Denbo, so he stays in the game. Elias Rios will take over in center field as Brian Landon will take a seat and Matt Darr stays there. So if you're wondering what the changes are for Fullerton College, Pascal stays on the mound, Sharp behind home plate. Malerba stays at first as well. At second is now Ryan Lamastra. Denbo moves from second to third, where he now stands getting ready for this next pitch, and it gets fouled back. Shortstop is David Barrios. That's the infield for Fullerton. Outfield from left to right now is Dominic Martinez, Elias Rios in for Brian Landon, and Matt Darr. 0-1. Just outside, 1-1. One and one. 1-2. Corrales not having the day that he'd like at the plate. Currently 0 for 2. Trying to get something started here. Canales swings, gets a piece, and it fouls back.
If you're a Fullerton College defender and the infield, you knock it down. As an outfielder, you do not let the ball get behind you.
Next delivery, Canales into the air. It's over towards second. Lamastra makes the call and the catch. There's out number 1.
Ryan, what a great jam shot. He throws it in high and tight, but he throws that fastball that everybody is salivating on and gets that first out.
Mark, we need confirmation from the players over to our left as to whether or not that was a two-seamer, because it looked like it had that rising action in on the hands. Soika takes called strike, 0-1. Watched it all the way into the bat, or excuse me, into the glove of Jacob Sharp. 0-1. Paschal sees this one over to short. Barrios gathers, fires to first, and there's out number 2. And again, Barrios trusting his arm over at short because he double clutches that, triple clutches that, and then throws to first base.
Yeah, when he took the third clutch on it, I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to drop the ball. What a hose over there at shortstop.
So that brings up Desa. Started the game off scoring-wise with a home run to right. Takes the first pitch, 1 ball and no strikes. Has made solid contact in each of his 3 at-bats, but is 1 for 3. That's outside. Pascal is going to stay away from the middle-in portion of the plate.
If speed's your best pitch, just keep throwing it.
Pascal back to home. That's up and high, 3-0. Infield back, outfield deep. 3 balls and no strikes. Desa is going to watch all the way, and he will take a trot down to first. So now if you're Fullerton College all of a sudden, as Coach Baum is going to go to the mound to talk to Pascal. Now if you're Fullerton College all of a sudden, you're looking at the batter at the plate being the most dangerous, or at least in terms of power numbers, coming up to the plate next in Kobe Morales. And we're going to get a pinch runner coming up for Cypress as well.
And Ryan, like you said with Morales, he's tied for the lead with RBIs with 17 with the team. He's got a batting average of 375. But the number that pops at you the most, slugging percentage of 688, almost 700. And realize that's after 49 at-bats. So it's not 15 at-bats, it's 49 at-bats. Your slugging percentage is almost 700.
So taking over at first now is Mason Pastorello. Deep breath from Pascal, and he will fire it in there for a strike. 0-1.
Took a little pace off the ball to find the zone.
Pascal to the set, takes a look at the runner over at first. Swing and a miss by Morales. And Cypress is down to their final strike. No balls, 2 strikes, 2 away. Pascal, quick peek, on to first. Morales gets a piece and fouls it back. Should the inning continue, it would be Sloniger who comes up next. Pascal to home. That's going to get away. All the way to the backstop it will fly. And Pastorello down to second. And Mark, if there was a time for that ball to get away, it was on that pitch, considering he was already taken off and his slide was to center field. If he's facing towards home, he sees that get away, he's down to third.
Clean base hit though, now it's on your outfield. Field it, and you're going only one place. Bringing it home. You're going to make them hold that runner at third.
The 1-2, just a shade low. 2-2. Looked like it was at the knees, but just a bit beneath the kneecaps. Two balls, 2 strikes, and 2 away. Next delivery. Pascal to home, and it bounces in, and Sharp once again working behind home plate as he has all afternoon.
What an exemplary catching display today from Sharp behind the plate.
So a full count at 3 balls and 2 strikes. Kobe Morales at the plate. Pascal to the set. Rocks, fires, home, and it's going to be a walk. So now you've got first and second with 2 outs, and that will bring up Sloniger.
Third baseman number
And Ryan, I don't mind that walk with first base open. It gives you options on force outs now. If one's hit up the middle, you've got an easy play at second base.
Sloniger, first pitch. It's right there. Dalton watching all the way, and it's 0-1. That's an important pitch there for Pascal, Mark, because in the 9th inning, all of these batters are coming up to the plate knowing that they're going to take 0-1. Or at least all the way until their first strike. To home. Over to first. Behind the bag. It's in fair territory. They've got to toss it to the bag in time, and it's there. Fullerton College with a win. The Fullerton College Hornets trailed it by a 4-1 score at one point. And they bring it all the way back, and on a squeeze play, end up with a 5-4 victory. 5 runs, 9 hits, 2 errors for the Hornets, and on the other side it's 4 runs, 9 hits, and 3 errors for Cypress. As the Fullerton College Hornets are going to go back into the win column, and Mark, they were able to do so in the way that you had called for all game.
Yeah, and they ran today. They got that initial hit when they needed it, and I'm going to give it to the coach. I love the fact you called that squeeze play. If you'd have been listening to me, I'd have been yelling for it more often. Great deal of guts doing it. And to the players, to a fine group of young guys that looked at me today and said before the game started, what a great day. We're going to get to play baseball. Ryan Osborne, you got to love that group that was out there. And, guys, congratulations on your first home win of the season. That game was a ball, exciting, and the Hornets come away with a victory.
So Cypress is going to drop to 12-6 overall and 8-3 in conference play, while Fullerton will end up going up to 4-14 and 2-12 in conference play. As that will do it for this game, don't forget to tune in tomorrow as Fullerton College softball, a big-time Orange Empire Conference matchup against Cypress. That is tomorrow afternoon. So tune in to sportsnetusa.net. For Mark Pavlovich and Joseph Pavlenko, I am Ryan Osborne, thanking you for joining us once again as our final 5-4, Fullerton College wins it. You are watching Fullerton College Baseball on Sportsnet USA.